Everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch League report. Ben, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's a new year and a new me, except I'm exactly the same.
New year, same show.
Same show. Yes.
So, you get what you expect. And what we expect is some harsh criticisms toward people who need it and some uplifting words for teams that deserve it. Ben, which team are we covering today, and are we going to uplift them or are we going to spill tea on them?
Today we're going to be talking about the Paris Eternal, and I think that I'm probably much higher on this team than a lot of people are from what I've seen.
Gotcha.
So this is actually going to be a positive episode for the most part, I think.
So are you saying that most people don't have a positive view of this team? You think that people are going to disagree with us in the comments?
I think that people don't have a strong opinion about them. I think a lot of people have them kind of as like a mid-tier, maybe like 4th or 5th out of 8 when you're looking at the contenders teams. I have them at number 2, which I think is a very controversial take. So, but we'll go into exactly why I think that they're being overlooked. So,
all right, hot take might get someone to throw tea at their computer, and then we all know what happens.
Oh yeah,
so tea
resets the
computer.
past.
Yes. Ben, let's get into it. Starting off with Damon, who
Yes.
is the head coach, and he coached the French national team in the Overwatch World Cup. Tell me a little bit about this man.
He did. He also was a coach for the LA Valiant last season. His story is actually really interesting. He has like Asperger's, and coming in, starting with competitive Overwatch, he thought that he'd have to work hard to overcome that, and he obviously has, especially in a coaching role. But he has a very strong history of being a successful coach. Like you said, he was the coach for the 2018 French Overwatch team, and they made top 8 from his coaching ability. And he seemed to have a really good rapport with the players that he works with. They seem to like him and they respect him. So I think he's a good pick. He's French, obviously, and this is a French team. They're a Paris-based team.
Right.
And the entire organization and players from this team are all European, with one exception. So it makes sense that they're going to get a European coach, and they're going to try and lean towards getting a French coach who's going to know the area, know the players, know the environment. So he's definitely going to have to step up, because I think he's been, other than the Overwatch World Cup, he's been kind of at a lower level within the coaching staff in previous teams. So this is his time to shine.
His big shot, as they say. I definitely noticed that when I was checking out the team a little bit. It's like, whoa, this is like you said, a very European team.
Yes.
Which is weird. It's not normal, I would say, for any of these teams. So let's start off with Fincy, who is from Iceland. He is a flex, and his signature heroes, according to this, are Zarya, Soldier 76, Diva, McCree, Torbjorn, and he played with the LA Valiant.
He did. He was also 2 years ago on the Icelandic World Cup team in 2016. I guess 3 years ago at this point, but technically, 2 years ago from the most recent Overwatch World Cup.
It is the first of the year as we're recording this, so we're going to have to adjust our internal.
Right. All of the math, you just got to add one.
Exactly.
So he was on the Valiant. He didn't really play very much. He was kind of a bench player. He might have to step up into a role where he's playing like a Zarya or a Diva. He has connections to Cruz, who we'll talk about as well, where they were on the original Orglis and Hungary roster together. So there's that synergy. So he was on that team before he was picked up by the Valiant. So he has previously played with another player from the Eternal, and I think he's a decent player, despite not really seeing start time last season. I think that he could potentially see start time on this team, depending on how they want to build their roster. He is definitely not. I doubt that he'll be the main diva player or like the main off tank player on this team, though. I think that's going to be another player we'll talk about.
All right, so moving on to potentially the most confusing name on the roster. It's LH Cloudy.
Yes.
He just goes by the letters.
Yeah, so a lot of people just call him Cloudy too. So.
All right, so Cloudy, he's a Finnish tank, and he mains Reinhardt, Winston, and Widowmaker, which was an interesting inclusion. So tell me a little bit about this man who is all about the tanks and also about sniping.
Yes, I think Cloudy's probably going to be the team's primary main tank player. Like you said, he plays Reinhardt and Winston. He played for Giganti most recently, except for like a small stint on Mayhem Academy, where I don't think he actually played any important matches because he was with them very briefly before being picked up by the Eternal. So the most recent like real team that he has played on has been Giganti. And Giganti is a very good EU contenders team. And I think that Cloudy is a big reason why they were so good. He's probably, up until this point, the best like unsigned EU main tank, unsigned to Overwatch League. So it makes sense that he's finally getting picked up here. He's really good on Reinhardt. He's especially good on Reinhardt battles. So like he's very good at winning those one-on-one battles with other Reinhardts, and he has seen many instances when he was on Giganti where he made really clutch plays that won their team points. So I think that he's a really good pickup and makes sense that he's being signed. And I think that he has the potential to kind of carry the team a little bit, honestly.
All right, that's very exciting. So moving on to Ben Best, France player. Also tank, also maining Reinhardt and Winston with a little bit of Orisa thrown in there just to spice it up a little bit. Ben, tell me about him.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously his name is going to make me want to have some bias towards him, but I actually think that Ben Best is really underrated. Was on the French Overwatch World Cup team, which is going to be, I think there are 3 players on this roster that were on the 2018 French Overwatch World Cup team. So he's previously worked with Damon. He has rapport with him. He's a really strong main tank player as well, which is surprising that they have 2 strong main tank players. So it's going to be interesting to see which of them gets the most start time. I think Cloudy probably will still, but I think that Ben Best might be brought in certain maps. He comes from Young and Beautiful, which are
just a great name, may I add.
There's a lot of really fun contenders team names. Like I said, I mentioned before, Orgulous in Hungary is also a very fun team name. And so he's, in my opinion, a pretty underutilized player. He hasn't really seen play other than on the Overwatch World Cup team. He hasn't really seen play on any strong rosters, so his skills have been kind of like relegated to playing on subpar teams. I think with a better roster like this, I think he has a chance to really come out in his own. So
all right, so from one Ben Best to another Ben Best.
Yeah,
that's the T. All right, so let's move on to Hip. He's a player from France rather. He plays support and he mains Zenyatta and Ana. Tell me a little bit about Hip.
Yeah, this is another player coming from a good team. He's coming from Eagle Gaming, who are probably one of the 2 or 3 best EU contenders teams. He was a very strong player on that team. He's an incredible Zenyatta player. He's got some really good timing. There have been like moments in games he's played where he's just like hit perfect timing on Transcendence that just like take over a team fight. And he also, which is very important for a Zenyatta player, is able to, in addition to playing the more like Healy kind of more like classical support role, he can also play like a very damage heavy Zenyatta. And in fact, his playstyle reminds me a lot of Jonak, who is considered one of the best Zenyatta players in the world. Obviously, like he's not at the same level as Jonak, but the play style that Jonak is famous for using, I see a lot of similar characteristics with him. And I think with the support of a productive org, I think that he could be potentially star player. So.
All right, so experiencing tranquility in ways
Yes.
of killing people. Experience tranquility, you little bitch. Throw the orb at him. So let's move on to Cruz. He was a UK player, also plays support, and they say that his mains Genji, Lucio, and Mercy, which is kind of interesting. How does that work?
Well, the reason for that is because he actually didn't used to be a support player up until about like late 2017. He actually was a DPS player, and he was a Genji main. And then when he moved to, oh my god, when was it that he switched? I think it was when because he formed Orglis in Hungary, or he was one of the forming players for that org, and that's when Finzi came in and played for that original roster. I believe that's when he switched to playing a support role. But he played in the last 3 British Overwatch World Cup teams. I think in 2017 he was a DPS. He played as a DPS role, and then this past year he mostly played Lucio and Mercy. So again, I think he's a very strong player. He's obviously strong enough where he's down on every British or World Cup team.
Right.
After leaving Orglis in Hungary, he played for Toronto Esports, which is now the Uprising Academy, with Fusions, who also a British player. And both of them put up really solid performances on that team and then also on the British Overwatch World Cup team. There's actually a moment in, I believe, the US match, which is like the famous upset match in the 2018 Overwatch World Cup, where he was playing as Mercy, and he was able to like basically simultaneously kill somebody as like a battle Mercy and pull off a res or like within like a 2-second period.
Pretty impressive.
And like basically like flipped a fight that way, and it's very impressive. Yeah. So yeah, he's a very strong Mercy, and he's like a decent, I would say, Lucio player. I think that his Mercy play is stronger, which is unfortunate because I think that Lucio is better in the meta right now. So.
Right. So tell me a little bit about Gray. He's a Portugal player. He plays support as well, and he means Ana, Zenyatta, and Sombra.
Yeah, so I think that Gray is probably the least impressive player on this roster. But that's not like a huge knock on him. I think that this roster overall is really good. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have them as the second best team.
Right. We can talk about why they're being underrated in my opinion at the end, but a lot of it just comes down to them being a European based team and people not taking European players seriously. In my opinion.
Like Paris? No. Not happening.
But yeah, so I think that Gray will probably end up just being like a backup player, like a bench player, and unless like Hip is like sick or can't play, or if there's like certain like corner case scenarios where he might be better.
Right.
Yeah, I think that he used to be like a much better player. He's kind of fallen off a little bit, in my opinion. It doesn't seem like he's kept up as much with the like meta changes. It doesn't seem like he's really like made any strides in improving over the last 9 months or so. But he's still a solid player. I think that he could them play, but mostly Hip is probably going to fill that role.
Do you think there's any chance that after joining this team, he's kind of been brushing up on the stuff that he missed out on, or maybe didn't pay as much attention to, or do you think he's gonna kind of be the player that you expect him to be?
I guess we'll see. I don't know. It's it's hard to tell.
No, right? I don't think he's gonna.
He comes from GGEA, which again is like a pretty solid EU contenders team. So like he comes from a good team, but he wasn't like the reason that they were good. Right? There were other players in that team that really kind of carried them to the position they were in. So yeah, I think he's a good player. I just don't think that he's good enough to see like a ton of play on this roster. So I think that Hip is just better.
Fair enough. So tell me a little bit about NiKo GDH. All right, so NiKo is from France, DPS, Genji, and Diva.
Yeah, so this is the second player that we've talked about who was on the 2018 French Overwatch World Cup team under Damon. And this is the player I was talking about where we were talking about Fincy earlier. I think that NiKo is probably going to be their primary off-tank player. He's probably going to be the Diva player on their roster. And since Diva is basically in every composition right now, he's going to basically see play every single map all the time. So, but yeah, he's actually a really good, like a versatile Diva player, which is interesting because he actually comes from more of a DPS role in the past, and he kind of has transitioned into more of an off-tank role in the last year or so. Yeah, he's very good. He has really great positioning. He is actually, from my understanding, a pretty good shot caller as well. He makes good. He's like a good like macro decision maker, and he's got like a good grasp on like ult economy for himself and then the team as a whole. So he's like landed a lot of like really like clutch self-destructs in positions where you wouldn't really expect it to like make a huge he's very good at like finding positions that don't really wouldn't naturally present themselves, I guess is the way to put it. I think that he's a very smart player. And while he was on the Overwatch World Cup team, I think that he didn't see a ton of play. I don't think he played at all in the top 8. I think he saw some play in the group stages. But he didn't see play in the top 8 because they had Poco on that team, and Poco is like an insane Diva player.
Right.
Yeah, so on one of the best Overwatch League teams. So
right.
It makes sense that he's not going to see play over Poco, but if the worst thing that like you can say about him is that he's not as good as Poco, then like that's a good starting spot.
Right. All right, so moving on to Dane, a Polish player who's DPS, Genji, Widowmaker, Pharah, and McCree.
Yeah, it's Dawny.
Oh,
it's like Kanye with a D.
Dawny.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, tell me about Dawny.
Yeah, so I think that Dawny is an example of a player that a lot of other of these expansion teams have gone after, which is like a really strong player from a bad team. So he's coming from the Copenhagen Flames, who are like a low tier EU contenders team, but he was definitely, I wouldn't say definitely, he's almost definitely the best player from that team. He's incredibly impressive. He is a very good Widowmaker player. Whenever they're going to need somebody playing on Widow, then they're definitely going to be going to him if they don't have like Sunin for some reason. But he's also, on top of being good at Widow, he's very strong projectile DPS player. I watched some VODs of him playing on Copenhagen where he was playing really good Hanzo. And then he was also he's flexing to Mei as well too, which was really impressive. He carried a map. Who were they playing against? I'm trying to remember who they were playing against. It might have been Kaganti, honestly. I'm trying to remember who they were playing against when I was watching him play Mei. but he actually played really well. And I think that a lot of teams are looking at Mei as a potential hero to try and counter goats. So we'll see if he can make some plays like that in the Overwatch League. I don't know how much starting time he's going to see because I think the other two DPS players are better, but that doesn't mean that he's bad, right? It just means that he's not as good as two players who have played in Overwatch League already and who are, some of the best European DPS players that the game has seen.
Right. Well, speaking of somebody who played in the Overwatch League before, Shadowburn, he is a Russian player and he played with the Philadelphia Fusion as a DPS player playing Genji, Pharah, and Zarya. So how did he find himself on this expansion team?
Because the Fusion have two crazy DPS players already.
Yeah. So he's the expendable one of
he saw a decent amount of play in stage 1 last season, and then he kind of got swapped out for EQO. And it can argue like who between him and EQO is better, but EQO put up better results.
Right.
I think that Shadowburn might be a better Pharah, maybe like an equal Genji, but I mean, it's really kind of like splitting hairs. The Fusion saw EQO as a better player than him, so they started playing EQO more in stage 2, and Shadowburn pretty much just saw no play after that.
Right.
The main issue for him in season 1 especially was that there wasn't really like a meta where his strengths allowed him to shine. And that's probably still the case to a point now. But he's like definitely the best Genji on this team. He's definitely the best Pharah on this team. And there's a decent amount of Pharah being played right now.
Right.
There's as much Pharah being played as in most other DPS heroes other than Widow. So any composition that like he's probably going to see starting play, even if they're not going to use DPS. They'll probably flex Zarya, and then they'll have him in their starting roster so that in situations where they want him being like a Starfire player, they can have him switch to that hero at any time. So he's going to be on the starting roster 100%, in my opinion.
Right.
He'll be playing Zarya. So like he's fine
Maybe
at
not
Zarya,
his
but
favorite hero, but
right, yeah. But they'll have him to do crazy stuff when he's in a position where the team needs him to do crazy stuff on DPS.
All right. Well, I look forward to that.
Yeah.
All right. So closing out this episode, we're going with Soon, who's a French player who played on the LA Valiant, played DPS with Tracer, Widowmaker, and McCree.
Yep. You're finishing with the star of the team.
Yes, we saved the best for last.
We did.
But not the best.
So basically, like when the team was announced, everyone was like, "Oh, so Soon's going to go to this new team," and everyone was like, "Yeah, Soon's going to be the star of the Paris Eternal, right?" And yes, it turned out that Soon is going to be the star player on this team.
Hard for him to turn down his home.
Right. Yeah.
Town.
So I mean, Soon is probably the best European Widowmaker. Probably, yeah. I'm trying to. I don't want to like put my foot in my mouth.
No, I know what you're saying. Hedging your bets.
Yeah.
He's very good.
He's very good.
Yeah.
He's one of the main reasons why the French Overwatch World Cup team did as well as they did this past year. He has a history of working with Damon, both on the French Overwatch World Cup team and on the Valiant, where he was a star player. So that existing synergy already is there. On top of being a great Widowmaker player, he's also a very strong Tracer player. He's got a ton of competitive experience. He's, I think, one of the oldest players in the Overwatch League. And so he has that like potential to be like a leader and like
right,
a kind of a figure of maturity and like a cohesive piece to like bring the team together, like a unifier.
right.
And he has also had a decent amount of success flexing. I mean, I know it's not hard to like flex to Brigitte, but I mean, like it's not like a huge accomplishment. But
Right.
he is like he has been flexing to Brigitte in recent matches because of goats. So
Right.
he is going to very much be in a similar role where him and Shadowburn are going to be starting. They're going to be playing Brigitte and Zarya, and then whenever they need DPS players, then he's going to be just killing everyone.
Oh man. All right. So you wanted to touch a little bit on why you rank them higher than some of the other people who are more like who are also kind of doing pre-rankings aren't ranking them as high.
Yeah, so I think that the two major things that people are talking about with this team as to why they're not going to be like a great team are the all-European roster. Just people saying that they're going to be outclassed by Korean players. Pretty much every other team in the league has Korean players.
If not like, built almost entirely of Korean players.
Yep. all of the like teams that are considered the best, like the Spitfire, the Titans, the XL, are all just like Korean team basically.
And it makes sense if anyone's watching this and aren't like in the know. Esports much bigger in Korea than anywhere else in the world, so it's kind of seen as a like actual option for people. Like, right. Oh, I want to become an esports player isn't necessarily like a thing a lot of people in like the United States would say, but perhaps like in the Korean culture, it's more like accepted and more well known.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the main two things I've seen about the team is that they're like really good European players, but they're still European players, and there's not like. There are people saying that, there's not like existing synergies, but I think there are existing synergies. We talked about the French Overwatch World Cup connections that, Fincy is connected to soon because they both played in the Valiant, even though Fincy didn't really see much play. NiKo has connection to them through the Overwatch World Cup team. Cruz and played with Fincy before. Like there's like most of these players played in EU contenders, so like they're at least familiar with each other, and there are, in my opinions, enough existing synergies where it shouldn't be that big of an issue. So, and the other main thing that people have brought up is one of their coaches, Kai, who coached for Envious, and then he coached for the Outlaws, and then he coached for the Fuel. And a lot of people blame his decisions and his coaching strategies for the failures of the Fuel in season one.
Gotcha.
He seems to have very like strong opinion on things, and a lot of his decision making is, I would say, at best questionable. For the decisions he made with the Fuel roster and the higher level decisions he made on there. When he was working for them in season one.
Right.
And so there's kind of like this like curse feeling around him where like every team he touches like kind of burns and dies.
It's the opposite of the Midas touch.
Yeah. But I mean, he's like at best the like fourth coach in line on this team. I don't think he's really going to take a major role in actually doing hands-on coaching. They have Faith and Saida, who I think are both very strong coaches who are probably going to be more of the like day-to-day hands-on coaching role. So I don't really see that being an issue. I think that if he was like the number 2 coach on the team, or God forbid the number 1 coach of the team, then I could see that argument holding water. But I really don't think he'll be like a big influence at all in their decision making. So I don't think it's a big deal.
All right. And is there anything else you want to cover for them before we sign off on this?
No, I just want this episode to be a time capsule for when they're like top 6 team, so that I don't think they're gonna be a top. I think they'll be a top 50% team. I think they'll probably. I think they have a chance of making the like top 8 playoffs. Like they could easily make like the wild card tournament thing they're doing at the end, and then like kind of win their way through that. I could see that happening.
So you heard it here first.
Yeah. So you can come back and look at this video, and then I'll look like a genius. And if they end up like crapping out and being like end up in like 16th place at the end, then we can just delete this video.
Yeah. If it didn't happen, just forget it. Never bring it up again. We won't respond to any more comments after the completely bomb. But if they do well, come back here. Make sure. All right, Ben. That's all I think we have for tonight. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at WG Everything, on Instagram at Wicked Good Everything. Ben, where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Ben Sharon, so you can come and tell me how wrong I am and how I'm staking my reputation on a failure team.
Right.
And all kinds of things, and I'll be sure to bookmark them all so that I can tag you in screenshots of the standings and
just be petty as fuck.
Yeah.
Like the Red 100%. Sox Twitter after the Red Series. All right. And you guys can check out the channel. We have videos coming out all the time. Ben streaming, Jenny streaming, Maggie Starrykosmik over on twitch.tv/wickedgoodEverything. She's streaming. What I'm saying is we have a lot of content, and it's a new year. I'd like to say new us, but we're pretty much the same. But that's probably why you subscribed, unless this is your first time, in which case, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button. People always tell me to do it. I'm gonna be honest, I never do it. But don't be like me. Be like someone who's actually a good viewer. And thank you so much for watching.